Hello and welcome to my channel. My name's Ali, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about 5 things that I genuinely did not expect when owning chinchillas. Now please bear in mind that I first started owning chinchillas 25 years ago. Information was a little bit more scarce back then, so some of the things you might think, well, how did you not know that? But it's because we didn't have internet back then. Number 5, just how social chinchillas are. Now I'm not talking about the social aspect between 2 chinchillas. I knew they were social animals and they lived in herds in the wild, even though these books told me to house chinchillas alone, which is a load of old poppycock. Now it's not really the fact that they're social animals with each other that surprised me, it was the fact they were so social with me. For example, when I let my chinchillas out for playtime, I will often sit on the floor with them because you don't really want to be letting your chinchillas out unsupervised, so I always have it supervised. I'm often shocked by how they seem to gravitate towards me. And I mean, they will just come and sit on my lap, or they'll climb my shoulders, my arms, my head. They want to be around me. It's the first place they go when they're out, which kind of surprised me because I'd always been told they were skittish animals, very shy, didn't really like human interaction, and yet they would be always over towards me, which is kind of why I find it difficult to film chinchillas on the floor, because every time I try to film them, they will often go right behind the camera onto me, which is lovely, but it's not really conducive to good video footage, unfortunately. Even my more skittish chinchillas that don't really like being handled and don't really like human interaction, when they're out on the floor, they still will gravitate towards me, and I think it's because they know that I am a safe place to be. So it's quite sweet and something I really wasn't expecting, because I was expecting them, when they come out, they leave you alone, they run off into their little corner, they hide away, and you don't really get to interact with them, which isn't the case at all. Number 4, now we all know that chinchillas like to leap about and can actually leap to quite high distances, and they can get on a lot of different objects. What surprised me is just how incredibly clumsy they are. As in, half the time they're trying to jump on something, they will miss, 50% of the time I'd say. And they often fall off objects, they completely miss objects, they often will run into things as well. When they're feeling extra excited, they will just bolt and then run off into a wall or something. And I always imagined chinchillas to be quite agile, and which they are, and be quite graceful, a bit like squirrels really, a bit graceful and quite accurate when they actually jump and leap about. This is not the case with chinchillas though. They are incredibly clumsy, and it's quite comical to watch. And it's one of their more endearing qualities is the fact that they are just so clumsy. They really do not look before they leap. Number 3, their vocal range. Now, the general communication between chinchillas is often quite quiet, so little tiny gentle squeaks is normally how they communicate with each other. But every now and again you will hear something a little different, like things like alarm barking, which is incredibly loud, and screaming, and all kinds of different sounds from the chinchilla that you may not be expecting. Because when I first got my chinchilla, the first time they made that alarm bark sound, I thought that there was something seriously wrong with my chinchilla. Because remember, I only had books, and books didn't really go into sounds and what they sound like. So I was just like, there's something wrong with him. I genuinely got really frightened that he was not well, because it was so loud and so unexpected, and it was in the middle of the night as well, and I was just like, what on earth is going on with this chinchilla? It was only later that, after speaking to other owners, that I found out that actually it's perfectly normal. But yeah, obviously books don't tell you that, so that really surprised me. And the longer I owned him for, the more I realised they make a whole wide range of sounds that are some of which do sound quite alarming. Number 2, now this doesn't affect all male chinchillas, certainly not. I have a lot of male chinchillas that aren't like this, but certainly my first chinchilla was very much like this. And some male chinchillas, I get very excited all the time. And what I mean by excited is I mean randy. Randy? Okay, so not all male chinchillas are like this at all. I've owned plenty of male chinchillas now, and I would say 80% of them aren't like this, and about 20% of them are. And my first chinchilla was in that 20% bracket that are super randy all the time. Literally from the age of about 6 months old, he would hump literally everything in sight, from the slippers I was wearing on my feet, to soft toys, to soft rugs, to soft pillows. He would literally hump everything in sight. In the end, I had to hide one of his favourites, which was a soft toy. It was a rabbit plushie, and I had to hide that away from him because he just would not leave it alone. And yeah, this went on till about the age of about 13 or 14, and then he started to slow down with it, and eventually just didn't. He would still get randy, but just not as much. But he used to even try and mate on your arm. It was kind of weird, but it's just that he was in that bracket of chinchillas that are hyper excited all the time. And it's not something that I expected at all, at all. And after having more male chinchillas, I realised that this is not a common thing for chinchillas to be like. But if you have a chinchilla like this, you will know what it's like to have a chinchilla that is exceptionally randy all of the time. It can get a little bit embarrassing sometimes, but we love them nonetheless. So number one is really a mixture of things that I didn't really realise about chinchillas, one of which is how strong their paws are. They have actually got quite strong paws and quite strong teeth as well. So if they wanted to pull something away from you, you know, yeah, you would win, but they have got quite strong paws. And also just how fast they run. Now, if you give a chinchilla the opportunity to run really fast, like in a massive hallway or something like that, like I used to have at my old home, you really would know. If they want to get a gallop on, they really can run, and run really fast, which I wasn't expecting either. I was expecting them to be hopping all the time and quite slow and methodical, although agile. But no, they're actually really incredibly fast runners if you give them the opportunity to do it. And yeah, so things like that I really wasn't expecting. Obviously, I was expecting things like they roll in dust, because that is something that's in the books, that is something that you would research and know. But things like this you don't necessarily know unless you've owned a chinchilla already. So yeah. And the last thing, just how cute they are. I mean, the behaviours of them are quite cute, especially when they're playing with toys and stuff like that. It can be quite adorable to watch, which I kind of knew they were going to be cute. I didn't realise they were going to be that fascinating to watch and that funny. But yeah, they are. So yeah, so they're my 5 things I wasn't expecting when owning chinchillas. Let me know in the comments below if there's anything that you weren't expecting about chinchillas when you first got them and what surprised you about them. And I will see you in another episode soon. Goodbye.